HR is going to define the industry standard, and you can never get above that. The stuff I was creating wasn't viewed as inherently valuable. I was never able to directly talk to the people I was trying to reach. I can't pretend to be some of these things I'm not. I need change. I need some change, even if that's mental change. I don't like the version of me that is so constantly upset about things at work.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to Corporate Dropouts, where we explore what it really means to drop out of the traditional corporate mindset. I'm Brad, your host, and like many of you listening, I once believed that finding fulfillment meant living behind the security of a corporate job. But here's the truth. Being a corporate dropout doesn't always mean leaving your job. It's really about shifting from a paycheck-driven life to one that's guided by purpose and inner direction, really attuning to yourself. It's a process of tuning into your own compass, and one that can happen in the same seat, in the same office, or by exploring new paths entirely. Today, I'm excited to dive into this concept with Tyson Kartchner. He's the software training manager, and he's also a creative force outside work. Tyson joins us with a unique perspective. He's still in a corporate job, but he's actively following his inner compass and trying to figure out where it's taking him. Through his creative pursuits, like his YouTube channel, it's called Geek's Woodshop. There he shares personal stories and awesome woodworking projects. You got to go check it out. He's really embodying what it means to be self-directed while working within a corporate structure, which is not, it's a bit messy, right? You could say that, Tyson.
Totally fair.
Tyson and I originally connected through Jody Gates, another member of Corporate Dropouts community. Jody is the author of Mindfulish on Substack, and he's been contributing from the beginning. And I'm really glad that I got to know Tyson through Jody. And Jody's approach really challenges the idea that you have to leave your job to start living on your own terms. Something I wish I would have learned a little bit before I made my leap. So whether you're thinking about a career change, looking for new ways to bring more purpose into your current role, or somewhere in between, this episode is all about finding alignment wherever you are. All right, so let's dive in, Tyson. Welcome.
Thank you, Brad. And shout out to Jody, who is my soul brother. Long time.
All right. Okay, so Tyson, you've managed to kind of start cultivating this self-directed mindset while still working in a corporate role. And like I said, you've mentioned to me before that it hasn't been easy. It creates a bit of a mess. But I think a lot of us can resonate with that feeling. I'm curious when you first started noticing that inner pull to live and work in a way that felt a little bit more true to you.
I think there's a key moment in, like, say, I've been doing software training for a good while for different companies, and there was a time at which, and this is true of many software, people out there will know, of course, that Adobe, Autodesk, and many, led the way when they switched to a subscription model, which is at this point predominant. And the reason for that is because they proved that the income stream, when you can just have people recurring, and then kind of, the idea wasn't sold as being trapped in your software, but I'm going to convey it that way, because for me, when we swapped over, it like our very first messaging was this glowing message about like, you asked for it, here it is. We switched to a subscription model. And I just like ground my teeth to nothing because I knew that was a lie. Some people do operate well with that, but for me, that just that was difficult because so much of our base, that was not where they wanted to go. That aside, well, not that aside, but that's sort of where it began, where it's like everything we're doing is I understand we work in a business. Now, all of us, even if you're self-directed, you have to find ways to make it work. That's not a problem. The problem became like, oh, we just started having just growth targets that grew and grew and grew and still are, that became so all-consuming and so aggressive that anything that was done outside of that narrow quarter-to-quarter focus, some people that works really well for. For me, I had always been able to operate in a mindset that like, I understand I'm contributing to our success, but I'm contributing to our success because I'm contributing to customer success.
Mm.
After we switched over, it became more and more, you're not contributing to customer success, you're contributing to whatever data is going to make something look good up the line. Most of us understand that that's something that happens, but that's where it became, I couldn't fly under the radar as much as I had before. I couldn't just like do things that I knew could satisfy my own motivations. So that's when it shifted. And that was 5 to 7 years ago when we started down that path.
So that's really interesting that you brought up that you could feel that your client base wasn't actually necessarily asking for it, or it didn't align with what you felt they really needed. And that's what kind of bothered you, was that mismatch between the business metrics and like how to actually serve your customers. That's fascinating.
It was the right business move by far.
Okay.
It absolutely was. Um, I I think to me, you can do that sort of thing. To me, it's valuable to be honest and upfront and say, here's what we're doing, and we're going to commit to such and such, and this is why we're doing it, and it makes sense for these. To me, but that's why I'm not climbing the ladder very well, is because that's a different thing. I don't speak
Well,
that language very well.
I think it's a something that our listeners can kind of grab onto, because a lot of times, like, doesn't matter if you're in the military or in business, like you're going to be asked to do things that go against your inner compass for the good of the greater whole, like whether it's the company or the battalion you're in the military, like you're going to
Yeah.
follow orders to do this bigger thing, right? And so it's an interesting dynamic and tension that's set up within one, and it's not easy to reconcile. And that happened to you, what, 5 to 7 years ago? So you've been working through it, like, um, so for many people, tuning into their inner compass means questioning the day-to-day motivations of their job, right? So in what ways does Tyson, how do you manage that in your role as a software training manager, where you're having day-to-day interactions with you're training the customers of your software, you're having day-to-day interactions, you're seeing their needs, you kind of have your ear to the ground, I imagine. Um, so how do you do this in a way that you can still make it feel personally meaningful and self-directed, when you're putting together training? How do you, it's a big, long question. How do you align yourself with what's going on in the business and the customers, being the person in between?
Well, in that, the way that you question, right, I am kind of fortunate in that I get to create something that has a direct contribution
Mm.
to somebody's success in the software, or that is meaningful in that way. So I never felt that the work I was doing personally, I never felt that the work I was doing was meaningless. Excuse me, but actually, you would think that I would have a lot of interactions with our customers because I'm doing that sort of work. But what happened is, because we were scaling it, I became further and further removed from the customer. Now,
Mm.
I built training that tens of thousands of people have viewed and learned. Um, it has been, to me, very successful, but um, what has been interesting, and this is not necessarily the fault of, a company or corporation of anything, is just when, by the dynamics of the organization and the organizational shifts that happened, um, I was never able to directly talk to the people I was trying to reach. And all of a sudden, even
Mm.
though I was trying to do really compelling training and make it interesting and make it relevant, I had no direct feedback. And
Uh,
your motivations, just because of that, all of a sudden, like, I didn't realize it until later. Over time, it was just because the stuff I was creating, you're sort of a cost center. You're sort of like, you we didn't charge money, and there was no direct connection between people who take the training and people who buy the software. So internally, the stuff I was creating wasn't viewed as inherently valuable. It's just sort of like a unfortunate need. But I
okay.
found value in it, and I could hear. But so between those two things, all of a sudden, I didn't have any internal value, and I couldn't feel the external value. So you asked how I dealt with it well, and I answered instead that I didn't. Over time, I think is uh, it would have been better. I was creating stuff that I thought was meaningful. I felt was meaningful. Not being able to connect that to anything, though, caused that was difficult to create the meaning from.
Mhm. Yeah. So it makes me wonder about your YouTube channel then. When did you start that?
Um, I think in 2017.
So about the same time that there was this switch at work.
Yeah, I, that is probably more coincidental. I don't know if I would associate it as much as being an outlet. Um, if it was an outlet, as things have gotten more difficult, I probably should have ramped up my YouTube channel. Whereas what has really happened is I have, under the stress, done less with it. um, it is a good way, because the YouTube channel, you get much more just sort of personal comments and personal, even just from people. I built a rocking chair, and I had somebody reach out to me personally and be like, my wife is 6 months pregnant. Can I get some more like insights into how you built this? And they built a rocking chair and sent me a picture. And I was like, that's awesome. Right. Like,
Yeah.
that's very, very cool.
Well, I've been watching your YouTube channel, just little bits and pieces since I met you. And wow, the last one that you put out about the cutting board, that was so touching. Like it just, I was like, oh, I want a cutting board from Tyson. And that how they turned out at the end, like you put such a nice touch and finish on them, and seeing how it started at the beginning was this rough cut thing, and then you're just telling stories as you go along. It's such a cool format. this is why I started wondering about this. Like, you've got this great creative outlet with your YouTube channel that, you know, allows you to use your um, making like complicated plans and then actually making the thing in the shop, and then you bring in a sentimental part to it. Um, like you made a sword for one of your friends, like one of their characters, wooden sword. That was so cool. Um, do you? I know you said maybe it's not a creative outlet, but to me, from the outside, it looks like an expression of your values and what you find purposeful. And I wonder if you feel like when you go make a video and you put it out there and you get those comments back or you see people make it, does that help you stay grounded while you're working at a corporate setting and you, like you said, you're not getting that tangible feedback or that connection to people in your corporate role?
This I will answer it this way. I don't know if it's the answer necessarily to the question you're asking, which is like, do I translate it to the corporate role? What I do appreciate about my YouTube channel, and thank you for
That's
those
cool.
kind words. What I do appreciate about it is, and I've struggled with this. Let me be I still struggle with this. My YouTube channel, I started it long enough ago that, you know, some people would look at it and say, I've had some relative success.
Yeah.
I haven't fed it regularly. I haven't played the game well. And I finally come to terms with that's because that's how I'm going to do it. I would be under so much like, I need to be releasing videos regularly. I need to create more dynamic, more in your face thumbnails. I need to do things this way because that's how you get success. And I did want success. I wanted viewership and numbers. I didn't care so much about the monetization, but that would have been nice. But I wanted the, like, you know, ego of that. And I finally had to come to terms with my style that I am comfortable creating is going to be a pretty laid back style that is not going to resonate with 90% of the YouTube audience, which is, you know, the people who are TikTok's competing with. But I get people who are like, I appreciate that it's just kind of laid back.
Yeah.
And I had to come to terms with that's what I'm comfortable doing, even if it's not going to be as successful as it could be if I played the game better. Does that translate to corporate? It translates in that, like, we do what we can to you know, day to day find our the way that we can contribute, and you have to find something that's meaningful. I don't pretend I've always done that well, but you try. I don't know, how's that in regards to what you were asking?
Yeah, I just wondered if it helped with that balance of not being able to find as much meaning at work because you were removed from the customers, and you're able to kind of still scratch that itch, you know, by actually connecting with people online through your YouTube.
I would say yes, but I would hesitate because honestly, maintaining a YouTube channel and the work it goes into every project and editing every video is so much that by the time it goes out, I'm sort of like, oh my goodness, like, this one's done, get it out of the way.
Okay,
So the
everybody,
dream,
I gotta let you know, everybody that's listening, at this moment, Tyson has 37,400 subscribers on YouTube. So obviously something's working, you know, in the way that he's approaching this. And for me, when I watch it, I just said, oh man, this guy's really authentic. Like, from the music that he uses, the camera angles, the transitions. it's not, yeah, it's not a Mr. Beast video, but that's not what I want to watch. I want to watch Tyson like tell this really authentic story and take me like through this process of making this sentimental piece for his family, or a, you know, a sword or the rocking chair. Like, um, yeah, I know like from the inside, it's a lot of work, and to put that stuff out, but it's out there now, and you're going to have people finding it for years to come, and you're still going to be getting these comments like, "Oh, that was so amazing! I loved it. It was I just relaxed and watched you, and you told me a story, and like it, you're doing it your own way, and that's authentic, and I can't fault you for that, and I don't think that that's, in my opinion, I think that's an actual huge asset on YouTube, is, and in the on the internet in general, is just finding somebody who's just doing their own thing because it feels right to them.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
We have to call you the Kim Kardashian of woodshop.
Please don't.
I mean, you want somebody that's doing something that feels right to them. That's, you know, that's where they get their fame from, right?
Uh, yeah, you can't compare me and Kardashian. I am not a reality TV
We're just going to intersect
person.
those things.
No.
Tyson Kardashian. All right. It's not. All right,
Uh,
Tyson. What about all right, so let's get back to corporate life for a second. 'Cause otherwise I'll just talk about your YouTube channel all day because I love it.
well, I.
Um, okay, corporate life often just defines success by metrics and paychecks, right? Like the KPIs, the OKRs, the, you know, whatever the flavor of the month is.
Yeah.
Uh, but tuning into your inner compass can really change those metrics entirely, right? So, how has your view of success evolved over the years? You've been in this industry for multiple decades. You know, you've seen these different fads and trends of measuring productivity and success change, and you've had to reconcile them with your own inner compass and what you define as successful. So just walk us through what that evolution has looked like over the years, and what does it look like for you now?
The thing I think the biggest mind shift that I had at some point, and I don't want to claim that I had like the intuition to come into this and actually like have it versus I just realized this was what was happening. But at some point, I came to terms with I I don't work well with the execs and the C-suite and the numbers that work at that level. And I'm saying this to say that like some people that really does it for them. And I never had those ambitions. I'm not saying that because like that was a shift of that. I'm saying that because I had to really shift what I felt was, yes, a paycheck, but also like career growth into, I don't think I'm gonna career growth that high.
Okay.
And I had to come to terms with that. That's difficult because then that also means, like you say, your paycheck, your ability to progress that way. Um, also, but I say that that wasn't entirely an insight because that's when I also realized that's the way the system is designed. Anyone in the creative side, you realize that it is designed to hold you down at a certain level at what is whatever HR is going to define as the industry standard, and you can never get above that. I just had to come to terms with, is that okay? Can I live with that for a while? I'm not going to say every day that I can, but I did realize that look, I can't pretend to be some of these things I'm not, just for the sake of growth or the sake of trying to get to some managerial role that I'm going to suck at. I'm not going to say, again, it's not like I've totally come to terms with it, but I have accepted that for me, that will never be a path I will do well at. So I have instead had to say, okay, how can I work within this path? How can I best say, either I've just accepted that for my personality, I'm going to have to find the ways to make it work here. And growth is not a motivator for me. And
What would you
again,
say?
yeah.
What would you say is your motivator now?
My motivator is as best it can, like, I don't want to say it's like, oh, finding creative work that, it's that mix of finding creative work that I can find fulfilling, challenging and fulfilling, that I know resonates with, solves a problem for somebody else out there. Now that happens to be a customer. I don't have the mentality of like, let's get as many customers as we have because it creates this. For me, it's just, can I solve a problem that helps somebody else?
Okay.
That is what resonates with me.
Do you feel that blending your corporate know-how from all the decades with your own personal exploration, like, do you feel that your creative and personal pursuits make you better at what you do in your role as a software training manager?
I think they do. I think they do when they're allowed to be. Most of us, I think, in this role where you are doing stuff that is customer facing, you have to do it within, brand guidelines and certain, like, how you speak. And there are restrictions there that I would, be different if it was just me and my personality. But to some extent, I still try to push that envelope a little bit. Get into a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, I can. So you keep the mischievousness alive. Is that what you're telling me?
If you can.
All right. Well, let's see. What what projects do you have on the horizon that you're excited about, either in your software training manager role or in the Geeks Woodshop?
Um, honestly, the Geeks Woodshop, I'm way behind. I have like multiple projects finished over the past few years that have just not made it off the editing floor. There are the software that I use is 3D software, and I use it to design projects, and then you can design out plans for them. The thing that I will own up, and this is a tangent from what we've been talking about. If ever I was to do a side hustle, I fully know how I would be really good at creating like projects and then creating build plans for them or designing new things. I'm just scared to death to do the business side of
Oh,
it.
okay.
so
Yeah.
so finally doing that, like just proving myself wrong, would be great. So that's one, like if I ever cross that threshold, prove myself wrong or right, I either way cross that threshold because it's been in the back of my mind for a decade. At work, I will honestly say that I am mentally going through the shift right now. A lot of the stuff I've done over the past few years is dated, and even though it's still valuable, I have wanted to update it, but now I'm being told, no, we're going to scrap it and just do it all in a different format. That hurts a lot because of the idea that we're just going to scrap this as not very useful, but also just the prospect of okay, fine. If we're going to reinvent the wheel, I actually like reinventing a wheel. So fine.
Literally
Yeah.
in your wood shop.
Bring it on. Yes, I do.
Oh man, that's great. Um, yeah, it's such an interesting intersection that in your skill set between building up the knowledge on how to train people, maybe set up learning management systems, videos, interfacing with clients, like that's such an interesting skill um, to be doing within a corporation, right? Because most people are trying to do that like themselves on YouTube, right?
Right.
They're building their own learning management system to teach their own coaching system or whatever they're trying to sell, right? You've been doing that in a corporation, so like you probably have had more resources available to you, different perspectives. So it's really interesting to me that you have that skill set and that perspective, and now you're kind of approaching it with your woodworking, and you can kind of see like when I look at your YouTube videos how the two intersect a little bit. Because on your YouTube channel, you feel free to just do what you do best. Um, so if anybody's out there, any of our listeners looking for a business partner, like Ty, Tyson's your guy. He's super creative, can make all kinds of stuff in his shop, and just needs somebody to put the stuff out on Etsy or wherever it goes on the interwebs and sell it, like, and just give him a cut, like, so
It's true.
that would make, well, let's all do our best to prove Tyson wrong. Oh, it's great.
I love this is tangent. Don't you love being proved wrong? I actually love being proved wrong. Like
What do you
I
like about
love
that?
I, what I love about that is it's the most we have just so many ideas that our brain doesn't do well with like absorbing new ideas all the time. It needs to settle on a bunch of things. But when I take something, a concept or a truth in quotations, that I'm like, no, this is how the world works. And I'm like, no, actually the world works differently. I just find that wonderful and fascinating. I like the idea of getting the most accurate view that you can. And if that means being wrong, I kind of love it.
Ah, all
That's a
right.
tangent. Sorry.
No, it's great. Um, how does that, how has that helped you or hindered you in your many corporate roles over the years?
I have accepted that if the world and business and capitalism ran the way that I think it should, it would probably be terrible.
That's honest.
Some things might be better, but I imagine a lot of it would be terrible. How has that helped? I try to keep that just as a mindset moving forward. So when I get really frustrated by demands and objectives that I don't agree with, I do try to keep the mindset that says, am I wrong about this? And can I view this differently? I don't always achieve it, but I try to keep that. So
All right.
um, yeah. And as somebody who has never run a business, no, I really do believe if things ran the way I think they should, it probably would not be great overall.
Probably be a version of business we haven't even seen before.
It would be that.
It would be very touching, very kind, and yeah, we
Oh,
would all
yeah. Thank
just
you.
love to hear your. You'd be the CEO that would have town halls where you would tell these amazing stories while creating something for everybody to take home with them. And everybody
But
would leave the room feeling happy and fuller and like ready to go back to work.
what is the 60-70% of the world thinks they drive better than the other 70%?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, some
All
of
right.
us, yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Some of us look at that and take it for what it's meant, being like, don't be so. And I think some of us look at that and are like, that's because I drive better than. Yeah.
Oh, yes, we're funny human beings, that's for sure.
Yes, we are.
A funny mess of neurons and hormones.
Turns out we're just chemicals firing. Yeah. Electrons and chemicals firing.
Uh,
And each of us
well,
has their own version.
what would you say keeps you connected to that inner compass that tells you what's right for you?
Oh. My ulcers? Oh, um, I unfortunately I think that's as accurate as anything. My stress level.
Okay.
Like how much my stomach is churning on a given week will be a pretty good indicator of if what I'm being asked to do aligns with what I find morally reasonable versus absolutely garbage. And
Okay. Yeah.
and you know that's not always a healthy relationship, but yeah, what is it also like? There's theories about how much of our like we think everything's in our head, but how much is motivated by our gut, by other parts of our body that actually control so much of what we do. I don't know a lot about that. I'm speaking way out of just oh, I saw something once on the internet.
This guy was talking about it in his wood shop, and it was really profound.
Oh yeah,
No, I asked that question because, yeah, like over the years, I've experienced my own inner voice, and that's what got me to leave my job. Eventually, it was yelling at me so loud I couldn't deny it anymore, and so that's just like an intimate relationship for me, to try to stay connected to that inner compass. And I had the same thing going on, and I still do. Like stress is an indicator for me of like I'm going against my own grain, to put it in woodworking terms,
yeah,
right? It just feels like it's off. And I'm just bringing that up because, for our listeners out there that are wondering what is this inner compass that we're talking about, it, it it comes at you in different ways, but ultimately it's what's pulling you to even consider leaving where you're at right now, whether that's completely leaving the corporate world or just going to a different job or even just a different role in your organization. It's just an internal drive or pull. That's the inner compass that we're talking about. It's always pointing you to the next best thing for you. And if it's a stress response or an ulcer response, like at least you know that there's a response, so you can do something about it, right? Um, and often our bodies will try to get our attention if we're not listening. I used to get really sick after big projects at work. I'd be down for 2 weeks, um, or I would have other manifestations in my body, hives, different things, because I wasn't listening to what my internal compass was trying to tell me. So that'll get your attention. Um, so that's what happens at work. What does it feel like, and how does it manifest in your wood shop when you're like making a rocking chair or you're following a plan or something? Like, how do you know that something's right, and that you should keep cutting the wood that way, or you should finish it this way or that way? Like, how do you make those decisions? Is it also ulcers?
Yeah. No, I flip a coin. Cut it this way or that way. I'm the Two-Face with the coin. um, I don't think this is going to be at all inspiring. When I got into woodworking, I think for many people, if for whatever hobby or something that you get into, when you initially start, you're in learning mode. You're in a mode where you are watching a lot of other people and sort of mimicking what they do. At a certain point, I'm not claiming to be an expert woodworker or anything, but at a certain point, it's kind of just, it's not muscle memory, but it's like, I know if I'm building a project this way, and projects are just, you create flat straight pieces. I mean, unless you're doing super curved stuff, and then it's joinery. And once you've done enough of that, you're sort of like, if I've designed a project this way, these are my joinery options. These are the ones that I either like to use or I'm comfortable creating. And so it's a little bit of that. One of the things I do enjoy, uh, you mentioned, like, my channel has a lot of people who watch it because I've made wooden swords.
Ah,
And one of the things I really enjoy about that process is I have tried, and I think successfully, I have created kind of the way that you put a whole wooden sword assembly together in some unique and different ways than what I had ever seen out there. I
ah.
enjoyed that part. So if I can challenge myself to do something differently, I really enjoy that. But the other part of your question is just sort of, there's ways things go together. You kind of pick the ones that you like or are comfortable with or have the tool set to do, and unless you want to challenge yourself to do something differently. But that's how it is for me.
Okay, so the challenge is in the puzzle, putting the puzzle pieces together in different ways, and that's kind of how your creative uh, comes out in the shop. Then,
Yeah. um what was the last I just finished a project and nobody's seen this because I just put it, shared it. I built, for it, this is ironically for work. If it was for an event we're doing, I built this sort of treasure chest a couple of years ago, and then to create a stand for it, I built this tripod over the past few weeks. And it was, because I didn't have a lot of time to be out in the shop, I had built a lot of the pieces and then was 3D printing them, right? Because they can be printed.
uh,
So a lot of that one was fun because, again, it was very different. A lot of the joints are 3D printed, are plastic parts that are custom built just for this thing. Yeah, it's that part of, I, for me, again, we're way tangenting here. I, if something exists and in the 3D printing world you can find pretty much anything, examples of it already, I have to build it for myself, just because I'm wired that way, and it's not fun unless I create my own kind of spin on it. So
okay,
yeah, that part is fulfilling.
yeah, you clearly have a drive, something that's driving you inside, Tyson, and it's for me from the outside, it's fascinating to watch you on your YouTube channel and see that coming through. I don't know how to put words to it. Like it's hard to put words to it, but it's definitely peeking out. And I can only imagine, the users of your software get to experience this as much as your company lets them. They get to experience this through you. Using the software in different combinations and putting those puzzle pieces together. Like, must be pretty cool to watch your videos there too. I mean, we won't get to see those because they're obviously part of your job. But for anyone out there listening, I really encourage you to go to Geeks Wood Shop on YouTube and check out some of Jody's videos, and it'll give you a real sense for what self-direction looks like when it's uninhibited, and you can just kind of work on a project on your own. I think this is what we all yearn for in a corporate environment is, hey, I'm good at these things. I know how to put all these things together and do these things. Just let me do it.
You wish,
But
yeah.
yeah, we all wish that, right? And that's the hard part. And then we go out and make our own YouTube channels or whatever, and we say, look, I'm doing my thing. Look how awesome it is. Now pay me for it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always work that way, right? So
Yeah, let me tell you how much bank I've made on YouTube. It's like in the double digits. I made $12 this year.
hey, all right.
I'll retire.
It's enough to fill that big coffee mug.
I know.
That's a $12 coffee at Starbucks.
That is.
Tyson. Well, I'm gonna enjoy watching your progress on your YouTube channel and keeping up with you in the corporate dropouts, the water cooler chats. I love watching whatever's peeking out of you. It's really fun to watch from the outside and watch you try to go, no, 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 stay, no, push that, no, stay where it's safe, stay.
I
That's pretty
like
entertaining.
staying. I know. I know. Like, come on. Well, and thank you. It has been fascinating hearing people's stories and relating to both the struggles and hopefully the successes. I think what you're doing is fantastic, Brad. It's really obviously hitting a niche that is like super needed because it resonates so deeply with the people who participate. Thank
I
you.
love our fledgling community. It makes me so happy to show up and have those conversations every week. It's a real boost for me.
That is.
All right, so for our community out there of corporate dropouts, whether you're still in your corporate job like Tyson, or you're all the way on the other side doing your own thing, this inner compass is still a theme we all have to address at some point. So, Tyson, you're addressing it on a day-to-day basis, balancing your YouTube channel with your training channels at work and everything you're doing there. Um, what what advice would you give to people in your situation, or doing their own thing, to be able to tune into that inner compass or find it? I mean, ulcers work, but uh,
Not well, or not
but
happily.
maybe from your creative pursuits, how you know is it as simple as we just all need to get a hobby?
Oh man, I think we do. Whether or not that's the answer to your question, yes. The answer is yes to that. Um,
Okay.
Woodworking is a very space expensive and time expensive and money expensive hobby. I don't recommend that unless you really think you're gonna get into it. Don't. Yeah, I won't get that. Your inner compass. I before we started, Brad and you and I were talking about how both of us like to kind of talk through how we think things, and like this is one that I'm afraid I'm just going to start rambling because I don't entirely know how to. because I don't think I've entirely found mine. You've given me credit that I tend to have one, but I don't know how intuitive or how much that could be. I know what I don't like, right?
That's, yeah,
Um, I think it's not that hard to find sometimes what you really doesn't resonate with you. And that alone, right, can at least be like, okay, not this. Well, there's all of this. Sometimes, whether you can narrow that down into something that you find that really does resonate with you, I don't know how well that works, but I think most of us can probably identify in the setting, and many of us have similar ones where we're like, I want to find that piece, that piece that balances. I want to contribute to something, and it can be contribute to the success of the place I'm at, the company I'm at, but I
yeah,
want to do it in a way that feels morally like we're not lying to anybody or anything. We're providing something of real value, and I am providing something of real value. Beyond that, the inner politics and the corporate stuff, and that's separate. But underneath all that, if you can work with people you enjoy, doing something that you find contributes real, because so many of us get our sense of meaning from our work. And if you have no value in what you're doing, you, unfortunately, I think it tends to come back in your self-value then, right? Doesn't have anything. So that's my rambling, some thoughts on an inner compass. That's a good question that I don't pretend I have fully answered for myself.
well, you can watch this back and listen to your answer then, because it was a pretty good one.
If you say so.
I would second that. If you're gonna start tuning in to what's inside of you, I'd say the very first step is exactly what you said. Find out what you don't like. Find out what doesn't work. And I'd say that was probably my first couple of years after I made the leap out of my job, was just trying things and going, oh, that doesn't feel right. Don't like that. Don't like working with them. Oh, don't like that software. Don't like that process. Don't. And then all of a sudden my choices became very clear. It's like, oh, I like talking to people face to face like this, having conversations. I really love communities. Oh, like, and it was like, oh, wow, I wish I would have seen this a couple of years ago, but it just takes time to figure out what feels right for you and get away from what feels comfortable, because what feels comfortable is what we get used to with that security in our corporate job. This feels comfortable. I'm going to keep doing that, even though it doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
So I like your advice. I like your answer, and I'm going to hold you to it.
No, don't make me accountable.
The next water cooler chat, I'm just going to start asking you, all right, what don't you like this week, Tyson?
Oh, that I can answer.
All right, see, I can hold you to it now.
No, you'll have to. Don't ask me that. You'll open the floodgates.
Maybe we'll open a thread on the community site just for you. It's just a list of things that Tyson doesn't like.
I'll tell you one that like I don't like myself being so cynical about so many things.
Hmm.
I don't like the version of me that is so constantly upset about things at work. So that's the
Good.
version where I'm like, I need change. I need some change, and even if that's mental change, whether I stay in it, that's the thing I don't like the most.
Wow, that's really raw and honest, and I think that brings us to a good point to end this on, and that is, that's a question we can all ask ourselves at the end of the day, and just say, is this the version of myself that I like? Is this the version of myself that I want to be? And if the answer is no, then, it's time to make a change, even though it's not comfortable. What feels right is being, you know, you somebody that you want to be, or somebody that you
Totally
already
so.
feel that you need to be, right? It's just rewiring what's in here to match what's in your heart. And that just takes time, and it takes consistent effort every day to note what you just noted. I I do this with my daughters all the time. I'll get upset at them and start yelling at them, and I go, wait, whoa, 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 this is not who I want to be. And I'll actually say that out loud to them now. I say, I apologize. This is not who I am inside. This is not who I am in my heart. This is not who I want to be. And so please let me try again, and then we'll reapproach. And wow, that's really great that you said that, Tyson. Is very honest, and yeah, keep pulling that thread, because I think it's gonna start revealing more things to you, and then selfishly come tell us about it in the community, so that we can learn from your unthreading.
That's what we're
uh,
doing.
all right, Tyson, we're gonna wrap it up. Is there anywhere else besides the Geeks Wood Shop you want people to come find you?
No, that's where I'm at. Um, and
You don't want anybody to come stalk you, show up at your wood shop?
not unless you're bringing cookies or something.
Cookies. All right. Cookies is the key.
Also, yeah, big chocolate chip cookies with pecans in them. There you go. Show up for
And
that.
$13 to beat what Google's paying
That's right.
you. Tyson, I've so enjoyed our time today, and I look forward to continuing to getting to know you more. And I so appreciate you and Jody being jumping in on this community right away, and helping us build it, and being staples and foundations for people to come and feel comfortable. And you ask such amazing, deep questions. You're always testing my motivations and helping me understand why I'm doing these things better. And if anybody out there has a chance to talk to Tyson, you're going to be lucky. You're going to walk away going, wait, I don't know who I am anymore, which is a very valuable gift to give to people, Tyson. So I appreciate it. And I appreciate the laughter today. It's a great way to end the week. So,
Well, thank you,
um,
Brad. You are too kind, and I love the community. So thank you.
all right. It's hard to break the connection for me, but we're going to wrap it up there. And actually, stick around for a minute. Tyson, I'm going to let our listeners jump off and get back to their day. And you and I will continue to chuckle for a second. All right. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in again. And we'll see you on the next Corporate Dropouts session, where we'll deep dive into somebody else's perspective in life, and try to understand ours better. All right. That's it for today. Bye.